Sooner or later, your players are going to end up in the sewers, so we're going to need some sewer tiles. Hello and welcome to the Battle and Barrow and another terrain building video. Yes, so when I made my street tiles, I did two different types of drain tiles. We had drain here where you'd probably find a clown down with a red balloon, and just one here where the water would run in, and that implies that there are sewers. Now medieval streets wouldn't have had sewers. They're quite a relatively new invention on the grand scheme of things, but this is fantasy and sewers can lead to many good adventures. Port Blacksand has a sewer system, so it's time to build some sewers, and we're going to make them in pretty much the same way, and this is what they're going to look up with. And yes, I have indeed modelled some poo within these sewers. So let's have a look at how I made them. First up, what we are going to need is to strip down some 6mm thick foam. I'm going to strip it down to 1.25 inches wide. This is my grid size, and the reason I stick with the 1.25 inch grid size, even though there's no walls and the whole point was I was doing it for the walls, is because some of my miniatures have fairly hefty bases. So here is Ranger's player character, here is Hugo. You can see their base sizes are completely different, so it's just to make miniatures with a slightly bigger base size because of size scope creep throughout the years fitting comfortably. So yeah. Once I've got these 1.25 inch strips, I then cut them down to 4-inch lengths, and we then cut down some 4x4 squares out of chipboard. These then get a darn good texture in, and then they have a 1-inch wide grid. Yep, because it's 4 inches of board, I am doing a 4-inch grid. So I think the grid size has gone right out the window. It's just whatever I feel like at the moment. Don't forget to continue that grid around the edge, and these are then stuck on to the chipboard on opposite sides, with obviously that pattern facing inwards. Now we need to think about the other tile types. That's great for doing the straight tiles. What about, say, a bend? So for this, put one part of the path in place, and then put the other path at a sort of right angle at the top, the other section of it, and cut off the excess. Now this will give you 1.25 inch square. You could of course then just put this on the bottom opposite corner to get your bend. It will be more of a curve, but we're going to go for something a bit special here. This of course could be cut out of one lump, but I'm going to use that piece, that little 1 inch by 1.25 by 1.25 square, put it against the section, draw a curve around it and cut that out, and use those two curves to give some bend to the bend. Then just add a bit of a grid texture into it so it all fits in nicely, and glue it all together. T-junctions are done in a similar way. Put one of the long straights in place, then the bottom two corners put 1.25 inch block on, draw a curve round and cut it off. The bits, the waste as you like, put that to one side because we are going to use that next. For a four-way crossing, just take those bits that you've put to one side, put those in each corner, and you haven't wasted any foam, and you've now got your straights, your bends, your T-junctions and your four ways. And now we're going to add the poo. I can't believe I said that in a terrain video. Poo. Yes, sewers, when I've looked online, they seem to be green. I don't know why. Really, sewers are going to be waste and stuff, so it's going to be quite disgustingly brown. So, and they always seem to be just like water as well, like thin water. When you let's say not many people have looked into a sewer, but it's quite thick, sludgy, gross material with lumps in, and this is what we're going to simulate now, the lumps of poop. So how we're going to do this is I'm going to take some of these chickpeas I bought a while back for a project, and I am going to smash them up with a hammer to form little lumps, and then I am just going to glue these in place. And with that, we're just going to paint it. I'm going to gloss over the painting because it's not very exciting. It's a lot of brown, as one would expect. So we're just going to undercoat the whole thing in burnt umber and Mod Podge. This is quite important because we're going to do some water in a minute, so I want to seal it up as much as possible, and this will help with that. So let's undercoat it with Mod Podge and brown. When that's dry, we then do a dry brush of grey over the brick, and then once that's dry over the entire piece, I will dry brush this sort of cream beige over the entire piece. At this stage, you probably want to wash the piece, the brickwork. I didn't. I did at the end, which I'll show you later. So probably do it now if you want to make it easier. And now we are on to adding a sort of water layer into it. You can of course use epoxy resin. I don't like it. I don't like the stuff. It's too much hassle. It sometimes reacts to paints, glues, foam. It's too volatile. It's just like a big snowflake. It gets upset about the tiniest little thing, so I don't use it. You could of course use Woodland Scenic's ready mixed water effects. I've used that before. Blooming good. The problem with it is it's blooming expensive. So what am I going to use? Well, if you watch me do any sort of water effects on the channel before, which I haven't done that much of, I should probably going to change that in the future. You know I like Zeturdez water drops, easy water drops. I believe now this is an old packaging. I believe now it's that Knock have bought Zeturdez, so Knock manufacture this. It'll be like in a yellow packet, but pretty similar. It might come, Zeturdez might still do it. I have to buy some more because I've run out in this project, and I love this. So what is this stuff? This comes in a two-part system, similar to epoxy resin, but one part of it is solid. It's these drops. You put these into a jar. Over the jar you put the second part, which is the drop softener. And just squeeze this all in. So while you're doing this, you heat your oven up to 180, and just in case I put it on an old, I put the jar on something else, just in case the jar cracks. This stuff would then pour into this container rather than your oven, and you don't want to do that and have your wife, family, or whoever you live with get upset with you and punch you. Place this in the oven for about 40 minutes and it will soften up. Come in with an old spoon and give it a stir. If you just want plain water, clear water, you can pour this now, but we are going to add some colour drops to it. The set I had different types of colour drops. It had green, blue and brown. We are of course going for the brown. Yes, you could probably add a bit of green to it. To add a bit of colour, in the past I've used green, and you can now pour this in. But we're going to need to dam the piece up. So whilst we are waiting for this to melt, come in with some masking tape. And that's the other beautiful thing about using these water drops. If you're using epoxy resin, it can also get out the smallest holes, so you have to dam it all up using bits of Perspex and hot glue, and you have to worry about whether there's a tiny little hole which just going to decide to go through. In this, I just use masking tape and put that on the underside, wrapped it round, pushed it down firmly, and then I carefully, using some oven gloves, poured it in, and it works, and it sets in a few moments. So you have a few moments working time, and you don't have to wait 24 hours. After about 5 minutes, especially if you put it near an open window. And I would recommend doing this in a well ventilated room anyway. But yes, put it near an open window. It cools down and sets. As it's setting, you probably want to put your fingers either side of the piece here onto a flat surface, just so as it's setting it doesn't curl up and it holds in place, and then you don't get any warpage. and you can get a load done in next to no time, and they're in about 10 minutes they're ready to go to the next stage. Now I ran out of the brown stuff, and I had some old green stuff that I had, and the beautiful thing about this material is if you don't use it all, it will set in the jar and go hard. You can put that into your cupboard, and then next time you want to use do something else with water, put that jar back in the oven, and it reheats up and you can reuse it. So you can make a load of it ahead of time. Now I normally use green because I like some mildewy-esque water, but I needed more brown, so I just added some brown colour to this green, and that gave me enough to do all my sewer tile pieces I had made. So I am going to have to buy some more of this. I cannot recommend this product enough, and no, this is not sponsored. I've been using this for years, absolutely love it. And we are now onto the home straight. As it sets, you may have a little bit of sort of overhang on the ends. You can just either cut this off with a knife or file it down with a file. It's quite brittle, so be careful you don't crack it all, but it doesn't take too much just to file down any little overhang where it's gone onto the tape. Now we are on to the last stage, and that is just, you don't have to do this if you want perfectly still water, leave it as it is, but I want to have a bit of motion as the sewage is travelling through the gullies, so I need to add a bit of rippling to the surface. You can of course use something like gloss Mod Podge or gloss varnish or something like that, but I'm going to use this is from Woodland Scenics. It's Water Effects, and this is a super old bottle. If you've seen my boats, any of the videos where I've made ships and boats where I've added this to the bottom of it to look like water splashing up on the boat, you've seen me use this before. This is probably about 15 years old. It's really thick and goopy now, so I just apply it with a brush and sort of stipple it on, leave it for a day, and you'll end up with that. So a tile that looks like it's got poo in with water flowing through it. It's amazing. This water effect stuff, as I said, I highly recommend it. Can't highly recommend it enough. It's really easy to use. Just use it, but do it when you're heating it up. Do it in a nice hot day so you can have your window open and have your room well ventilated. It's like midwinter here now where I live, so probably won't be doing this again until late spring, so it'll give me a chance to buy some more. But yeah, to turn there's water drops. You get it in transparent and colour. I recommend getting colour. It's probably a bit more expensive, but it gives you the option. If you want transparent, you can do it. If you want to add a bit of colour to it, you can. So with that is our sewers done. Real quick and easy, but staggering end effect. So let's have a look at it all set up, and until the next video guys, thanks for watching, stay safe, take care, bye bye.